Hi, everyone. Well, here we are, several weeks into isolation. Probably most of us are still staying at home most of the time, just going out for essential reasons. And some of us may be really enjoying this time, and that's wonderful. Um, Probably at times there can also arise, a sense of, questioning, of doubt, of restlessness, perhaps general grisliness from feeling cooped up all the time. Questions of, gosh, how long will this last? And what's it going to be like when we finally can emerge from this isolation? And I just wanted to share with you some techniques that I use if these feelings start to arise that just help to bring a sense of equanimity back to the overall experience. And so the first thing to do when we find ourselves in this state of maybe it's panic or fear or aversion or even sort of grasping is to look at what the experience is itself. So we have an experience. What is happening is simply what's happening. We experience it through the senses in our body, and that is just the direct experience. So that's one side. And then what happens is our minds add to that experience. So we might add a description. Our minds might add an opinion, maybe a bit of grasping. I'd really like more of that. Or, oh, I really don't like that. I want to change it somehow and make it different from how it is, wanting to control it. So the mind is very clever in how it creates a story around a situation or experience, and very, very quickly our attention gets caught up not in the experience itself, but in the story around the experience. And it's the story that carries a certain charge with it. And that charge then is carried throughout our whole nervous system into our whole body, and it affects our entire well-being. What happens is once our bodies are carrying that sort of a voltage or charge, it becomes a bit of a cycle where that charge within our bodies then even more directly affects the thoughts that we have, and our thoughts, each one more and more, will carry that same charge, and it'll get stronger and stronger with this sort of momentum of patterning. So a way that I have found to, first of all, just become aware of this patterning in ourselves, because it happens a lot. And the more we become aware of it, the more we can realize that, wow, our minds definitely follow a certain pattern. There's usually a certain voltage that our minds like to carry, that our mind, when it is left kind of uncontrolled, will just go there. And so a great thing to do every single day, as many times as you can, is just to stop, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself one simple question. And that question is, where is my attention right now? And just notice where your attention is. Is it caught up in a story or a distraction or some sort of mind-based thing? Or is it just resting in experience itself? It's really good to notice this as much as possible. And sometimes even in the noticing, it can create a little bit of space between the direct experience and what the mind adds to that experience, and let the charge in the body and the mind settle into a bit of a more equanimous state. Simply in the noticing, simply by asking the question and noticing where your attention is at any given time. So that's the first part. The second part is just to ask, is where my attention is right now, is it really beneficial for my overall well-being? So if there's a certain sort of a panic or a frustration or anything that makes you feel like, it's usually not that beneficial. That reaction is beneficial if you are getting chased by a tiger, or if really in that very moment your life was really, really in danger. Like something was going to attack you in that very moment. Yeah? When it's simply just worrying about toilet paper or even worrying about things in the future, it's not necessarily beneficial for us to carry that charge all the time. It's very, very taxing on the nervous system, which then also affects our immune system, which we really, all of us need to keep healthy and strong at this time. So instead of carrying that fear or that charge or that frustration all the time, sometimes, it pops up and that's okay. But if it's being held in there on a consistent basis, it's good to create some space, to relax, to let the body and the mind heal, and to come into that point of rest and digest. So if you notice that you're carrying this sort of voltage within you, that's not beneficial. Not beneficial for you. It's not necessarily beneficial for the people around you, and it's not beneficial for the world as an entirety. So if the answer to that question, when you ask, is it beneficial? If that answer is no, then the wonderful thing about being human is that we have the power to choose where we rest our attention. And so a good thing to do to kind of bring back a sense of equanimity between the body and the mind and the experience is to rest your attention simply in the experience. So whatever you are feeling physically at that time, just feel it. Whether it's standing on the ground, feel your feet on the ground. Feel the rhythm of your breath, how your body and your breath just dance together. Notice the temperature, both inside your body and externally. Listen to the sounds around you, and without labeling them or deciding whether they're good or bad, just notice. Just rest in the direct experience that you're having without disturbing it with your thoughts. And see if you can just rest there for as long as possible. And notice what happens to that charge in your body when you do this. And you may find that the more that you ask this question, where is my attention? Is it beneficial? If the answer to that question is not really, bring your attention back. Rest simply in the sensations as a felt experience in this moment. And then what can start to happen is an inner stillness will start to emerge. The inner stillness that's actually deeper than the experience itself. It is the awareness from which the experience arises. The experience and even our own bodies and minds arise within this awareness. And when we can rest in that, the presence, pure presence, when we can rest our attention in that pure presence, even if it's just for a heartbeat or a breath, we can become more familiar with it. And more, our thoughts become a bit more equanimous. They don't carry such a heavy charge. And then, our thoughts and our speech also becomes more peaceful, more equanimous. Our whole sort of story about our experience becomes equanimous, and we just live in a sense of general harmony, no matter what the situation we may be facing is, knowing that it is a situation. It may be uncomfortable, it may not feel great at the time, But it also will change, and it also will pass, and a new experience will arise, and probably a new story in the mind that is related to that experience. But the key is connecting to the pure presence out of which it all arises. And that can really help change the whole sort of outlook. We don't negate our experience, but it's just to change where our attention rests within it. It makes all the difference. But it also takes practice, and it takes dedication. And so I would encourage you to just give it a try. See if it works. It's just a technique that I find myself using. No one actually really taught it to me. I just sort of started adopting it over the years and refining it over the years, and now starting to share it. So I would be interested also to know if you find it helpful. If you don't, then that's okay too. But in these challenging times, it's important that we stick together, that we share information that we may find helpful. And I hope that in these times that you all are able to somehow find peace within the situation that you're in, wherever you may be. Om Shanti. Thank you.